why many of the caves of this monastery were left incomplete?
Yeah, it is a very important question. And the fact is, see, for example, Ajanta cave number 1, if you see, looks to be a very complete cave. Each sculpture seems to have been completed, the painting seems to have been completed, the Sanctum Sanctorum with the image seems to have been done. But if you, even the ceiling painting, but if you see, for example, the front wall inside the hall, no painting is there. Plaster has been done, but painting was never done. And uh, uh, even the worship did not happen. And Professor Spink has done a lot of studies. My research actually builds upon uh, the great research done by Professor Spink, Professor Shinglov, Virashi, Shastri, Yazdani, Ferguson, Burgess. So a lot of earlier scholarship which is there. So I have the advantage of studying these researches, and so it is no longer a question whether the caves are complete. All the caves are incomplete. All the caves in the 5th century AD, all the caves are incomplete, and something was left incomplete. In some cave, a painting was never completed. In some cave, a sculptural program was not completed. In some caves, architectural work was not completed. In some cave, floor was done, but the pillars not done. So like this, incompleteness is there in all the 5th century caves. We don't have to take the number, but here is the question. Professor Spink has come up with an explanation, and I find it very difficult to accept because there is no proof of it. He says that there was a Rishika and Ashmaka war in this area. Initially, when it was a beginning phase of my scholarship, like other scholars, I also kind of accepted it, and I did not have my own research or explanation for that. But now, the thing is, there is no evidence of it, that there was any such Rishika and Ashmaka war. And he says that, according to his theory, you have one something called recession, and he says that there was a conflict, and because of that conflict, the recession took place, and funding was compromised, and the development period of many caves were slowed down. Research shows, and this is the research. My research shows that the Hunnic attack began from 440, from 447 AD itself, and there were five Hunnic attacks in India done under Tormana's predecessor, whose name is Kingila. All right, and we did not have much knowledge about him. It's just that in the last 1 or 2 decades, a lot of new research has taken place in the field of epigraphy, in the field of numismatic, in the area studies, evidence coming from Pakistan and Afghanistan archaeology, and from Bactria and Mongolia, and those area, and so we are able to now correlate that these people definitely came and attacked, and he was not able to settle over here, so he did not leave any evidence. He did not get a chance to mint his points, left no inscriptions over there, this Kingila, but he is the one with whom possibly Skandagupta fought and Kumar Gupta fought. So here is the case. What happened? Professor Spink's dating is quite correct, and I endorse it fully. That 469 AD something happened in 469 AD. What he says, recession definitely happened, but recession happened because in 469 AD these people had come, and they were coming through because they used to the military warfare strategy of these Alchon Huns. They used to attack from multiple frontiers. So one of them, the Alchon Huns were made of several warlords. There were several kings. and each had their own mercenaries and armies, and they were like nomadic warriors and nomadic kings. So somebody would attack from Gujarat, another from Punjab region, third from Rajasthan, and yet another from the Delhi or Mathura area, another from Kashmir area. So there was no single king in India, and this was the warfare that they also had the same warfare system to attack the Roman Empire and the Chinese Empire. And it was not possible for a single emperor or king to fight a multi-front war system. So that is why they were very, very ferocious. So now what happened in India, all these Indian kings, they made a coalition in order to defeat them. But in each time, each warfare, many Indian kings died. So in 469 AD, when recession came, I will tell you the names of the possible names of the kings who possibly died. This is still a hypothesis, and it is subject to further research by other scholars in order to disprove it or to accept it or to further improvise upon it. It's simply what the evidence is trying to tell me from numismatics and archaeology and textual sources and inscriptions and iconography and from Buddhist texts and from the monument itself. And so it was a massive exercise right from Deccan up to Gandhara and Kizil Central Asia, which I carried out recently. And it tells me that in 469 AD, when there was a particular attack, and it was the third attack of Kingila, in which Prabhakar of the early Olikar dynasty took part, and then uh, there was this in Valka area where Bagh was there. So Bagh was also attacked. Longbhat Nagabhat was dead, and after that you have Maharaja Subandhu over there, and that Maharaja Subandhu comes. Then Parivrajaka dynasty is there, and at that point of time in 469 AD, possibly King Damodar is there, who was ruling in Ko, which was also known as Dabala or Dahala. After that, you have in Guptas at that point of time in 469 AD, you had Skandagupta was killed, and in Parivrajaka, Pravanjana was killed, possibly killed. And then in Khandes Rishika, where we are standing right now, you had a king named Dharadhipa, who was the veteran of cave number 17, 18, 19, and 20. So he was also possibly killed in that war, and Guptas were there. Uh, and After that, in Vatsagulma, you have Harisena. He was himself also involved in this war. And in the eastern Vakataka, that is from Nandivardhana, in Nagardan area, where you had Narendra Sena ruling, he was also involved in that same warfare. And down south in in Konkan area, you had Traikutakas, and King Dharasena was ruling. He was also involved in that. So there was really a big battle over there, which affected here. So some of the work was never completed according to the original plan during that recession and hiatus period. And then there was a future attack in 400 and 77 AD, and I will later speak about that. So, what happened in about 477 AD, which is a largely correct date proposed by Professor Walter Spink. And as I said earlier, that his chronology is really very precise chronology, and there can be an error of 1 or 2 years, but that error cannot be very large error, and I agree with his chronology to a very large extent. The only addition that I wish to make from my side is that it was not due to the Rishika and Ashmaka war that the recession took place. Similarly, it was not due to the Ashmaka confederation plotting against the Vakataka Empire and destroyed the Vakataka house, and due to which the Ajanta caves were abandoned and other sites were also affected. So I have a disagreement with Professor Swing on that point, because my larger study, he did not explore the Punic angle. He did not explore the Punic corpus. Similarly, the Punic scholars did not explore uh, about, about the death of so many kings. I have a list of more than 20 kings that died in 5 Punic attacks, according to my proposed time. So in 477, what happens? That this Alchon Kun Kingila, along with other Alchon Kun warlords like Mehma and Narana, and there are other names which I am forgetting right now. There are 6 to 7 kings. They attacked, and so when the attack happened, it happened from multiple frontiers, from Gujarat to Kashmir, and this was the uh, fourth major unique attack in Jammu, in India, on India, and all these kings. So what happens in a multi-front war strategy? It also entails a multi-front war response, and therefore, because there were four previous major attacks, in which many Indian kings had died, right from the Guptas to the Western Vakatakas, Eastern Vakatakas, the Bharadhipa, the lord of the Rishika country, as well as from Valka, Nagavata was ruling from there. Then in Prakutaka, you had Dharasana ruling from there. So all these kings were fighting this holy war together. So in 477, when the attack happens, it was the most catastrophic attack of that time, and it affected the Buddhist monuments. And I have the name of the kings who fought the war. We have Vibhishana Vardhana of the later Holikar dynasty, ruling from Mandsaur. We have uh, uh, Maharaja Subandhu. Later on, his capital was in Mahishmati, but earlier it was near to the Valkha area, and that region was ceded to Harisena, according to my reconstruction, by Skandagupta himself. And so he also participated in that war, but he survived. He did not die. He survived the war. But Vibhishana Vardhana of the later Holikar, he probably, possibly died in that 477 AD. Then we have the name of Parivrajaka. They were ruling from Khor, you know, and in that Parivrajaka, we had the Hastin, the famous King Hastin. So King Hastin also fought the war, and but he survived. He did not die, and in fact he became a sovereign emperor, a king later on. Earlier, they were feudatory of the Guptas, and in that same war, you have Kumaragupta II, who was ruling, Uttarapati. So he died in that thing. This is my proposed date, 477 AD, and he was succeeded by Buddhagupta. And then we have the king Ravi Samba, who was ruling here, because Haradhipa already died in 472 AD, because that is something that brought the hiatus over here, and the work was disrupted. But now in 477 AD, within 5 years, when the new attack comes, the last attack, really by this catastrophic attack. So in 477 AD, that Ravi Samba, the younger brother, whose inscription is there in Ajanta cave 17, so he also died, and cave 17 was never completed, and therefore, and we have the Emperor Harisena, and so we are talking about a time period in 477 AD, and in that time period, the Eastern Vakata and the Western Vakata kingdom were unified, and the Narendra Sena of the Eastern branch, he was functioning as a vassal, you know, of the empire. So Harisena was really the emperor, and 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 uh, so here you have Narendra. He also fought, and he also died in 477 AD. And then we have the Trikutaka king, Dahrasena, ruling in Konkan area. He had also participated in war. And in this war, the caves which were being under development in Konkan region, I have the name of at least three sites. One is Lonar cave that was discontinued, another is Mandapeshwar that was discontinued, and then we have some developments. Elephanta, by the way, was, according to my study, at least cave number 2, 3 and 4. They were originally Buddhist caves which were later converted to the Saivite caves. And this was under the rule of Dharasena. So Dharasena also fought and he also died, and he was succeeded by Vyagrasena. So I'm talking about a big region, from North India up to the Konkan area. About southern area, I have done no research. I've also not done research about the Kadambas, and um, there were other dynasties I have not so far explored. So the death of so many kings in one in 477 AD, it tells about a great. Because of that, because everybody died, and millions of people probably died, and Raj Tarangani also tells us that Raj Tarangani tells us about Tormana and Mihirkula, and he says that 10 crore people were killed in that Punic war, and the Buddhists were persecuted. So, you know, and so people believe that Raj Tarangani account is not reliable account. This is what scholars so far believed. But my current research and the evidence of abandonment during 477 AD and new research which I have proposed on Alton Hill Kingna and his confederate, and in the multidisciplinary research which I have carried out, it suggests that the account of Raj Tarangani is probably correct, and what he said about the Mihirkul and Turmana, it may also apply to the times of Kingila as well. And Kingla also has a different name, like he had a name of Prakashaditya. That is also one of the inscriptions that is found. So this is what happened. Due to this, suddenly all the caves were abandoned. All the caves were abandoned, and things were that is why none of these caves were able. During when the war was going on, according to Professor Walter Spink, whatever he has done in situ research is correct. There is a proof here in every cave that people were rushing the Buddha image to completion. They were trying to dedicate, they were trying to leave things, architectural things, and just finish the Garbhagriha, finish the sanctum sanctum, finish the Buddha image, and put it to worship. And this is what was going on. And so therefore, this is a new kind of research that there was a war which India had suffered. And on their coins we find the images of Pashupati and Nandi and Lakshmi and Surya also emblem, and fire emblem.